Okay, so today is going to be the same essential as yesterday, NS1b. And again, that is I can divide fractions. Okay, yesterday we talked a lot about the multiplicative inverse and the reciprocal and what those meant. We didn't actually do any dividing yesterday, but it was very important to learn what a reciprocal was because we are going to use it today. Okay, so let's take a problem, one we should be pretty familiar with. 3 divided by 1/3, for example. Okay, now we can solve that problem through modeling, and we'll go ahead and model that. I'm going to set up a bar here. Okay, and I'm going to divide that into 3 because this right here is 1 whole, and this here is 1 whole, and this here is 1 whole. And it's 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's where I get my 3 from. That's my 3 right here, my whole numbers. Here's 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them. Okay? Then I need to ask myself, okay, divided by 1/3. Is that a question of how many groups or how much in a group? Well, we should see that's a question of how many groups I can make from 3. How many groups of 1/3 can I make from 3? Well, if I'm looking at my whole and I want to know groups of 1/3, I need to divide my whole into 3 pieces. This would be 1/3, this would be 1/3, this would be 1/3. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3. That equals 1 whole. Same thing here. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3. That equals a whole. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 is 3/3 and equals a whole. So altogether, how many groups of 1/3 could I make? Well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I can make 9 groups of 1/3. Right? Okay. So modeling. We can find a lot out about modeling, and modeling can really help us understand where that came from. But I asked you yesterday, is there a way that you could come up with that answer without modeling? A lot of you came to the conclusion that when it's when you have a numerator of 1, you can multiply the whole number and the denominator, and that gives you the 9. And a lot of you saw how that kind of worked, and you kind of made that connection already by yourself. So we're going to take that a step further and show you exactly the steps for how to divide fractions without modeling. Okay, so let's take the same problem. 3 divided by 1/3. Okay, so 3 divided by 1/3. Step 1 to divide that is to change the problem. Change the problem to a multiplication problem. Okay, and you do this by make the divisor a reciprocal. Okay, so let me explain what that means exactly. Okay, so 3 divided by 1/3. We're going to keep the 3. Now, instead of division, it's going to become a multiplication problem. Okay, and instead of 1/3, we're going to do the reciprocal. Reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of 1/3? Say it. 3 over 1. Okay? So there we have our division problem became a multiplication problem, and we used the reciprocal of the divisor to do that. It's always the divisor. Always the divisor. Okay? Then step 2 is multiply. And we multiply straight across. Okay, so remember we talked about if we want that whole to be a fraction, we just put a 1 on the bottom. So we can do that right there. Make it a fraction. Make that a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom. Right, Jordan? Right? Okay. Then we multiply straight across. 3 times 3 is 9. 1 times 1 is 1. Multiply straight across. So that is 9. And that's our answer. And notice that was the original answer we had up here. 9. Okay? So using the reciprocal and making it a multiplication problem is exactly what you told me you were doing. This is just the formal way of doing it. Because a lot of you already saw that 3 times 3 is 9, and that's where we got our answer. This is the formal way that that works. What you're really doing is making the division problem, multiplication, and then you are taking the divisor and doing the reciprocal of that. And then you multiply straight across, and that's how you get your answer. Okay? Heather.
Would it work if it was like 3 divided by like 2/3?
We're gonna do some more problems right now so you can see how it works with all of them. Okay? Okay, so let's take another example, and let's not even limit ourselves to a whole number. Let's take a look at 1/11 divided by 3/4. So we're not even doing a whole number now. We're doing a division of fraction by another fraction, which isn't something we've really modeled before, and that's actually kind of difficult to model that. So we would not want to necessarily model every fraction division problem we ever came across, and this is one of them. Okay, we can model it, but we don't need to. So again, step 1, change the problem to a multiplication problem. So this is going to be, instead of division, we're going to have, actually, you know what, we're going to do it the other way. Hold on, sorry. Okay, 1/11 divided by 3/4, we're going to go this way. So instead of division, it's going to be multiplication. The 1/11 is going to stay the same. So it's 1/11 times, now the 3/4, we're going to do the reciprocal. We're going to do the reciprocal of 3/4, and that's going to be 4 over 3. We multiply, step 2, multiply straight across, and we would get 1 times 4 is 4, and 11 times 3 is 33. And that would be our answer. That would be our answer. Make sense? A little easier than modeling? Okay, so that's an example. Let's take a look at another example. Let's look at 2/5 divided by 3/5. Okay, so again, we take the 2/5, make that into a multiplication problem, so it's going to be multiply, and then the 3/5 is going to be the reciprocal, so that's 5/3. Okay, multiply straight across, 2 times 5 is 10, and 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, now this is our answer, but you might notice that answer could be simplified. And that's actually step 3, simplify. And that's if you need to. Some fractions like 4/33 cannot be simplified, but a fraction like 10/15 can be simplified. So a lot of you probably are already looking at that going, oh, I know what that is, simplified, and some of you might not. So let's talk about some strategies quickly. One thing you can do is kind of look at this, and you need to understand to simplify, you need to divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So you need a number that they share, that can be, there's a divisible by that they share. So you could, one strategy is to just start with 2, because most people can look at 2 and know if you can divide a number by 2. So 10, I can definitely divide that by 2. But 15, I cannot divide by 2 and get an equal number, right? Equal whole number. So 2 is not going to work. Then I could try 3. Well, 3 works for 15, but it doesn't for 10. 4 doesn't work for either of them. What about 5?
Yep.
5, yeah. I can divide 10 by 5, and I can divide 15 by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. So this is my simplified answer. That's my simplified answer. So you're always going to want to simplify if you need to.